Hello and welcome to the detailed explanation of Act 1, Scene 2 of Julius Caesar. So, this scene will be taught in two parts because Scene 2 is a really long scene. So, before we proceed, first let's see what happens during this scene. This scene takes place in a public place where Caesar is seen instructing Mark Antony to touch Calpurnia as he believes it will bless her to conceive. Meanwhile, a soothsayer warns Caesar about the Ides of March, but Caesar dismisses him. As the scene proceeds, Cassius and Brutus have a long conversation where Cassius expresses his worries that Brutus seems strange and aloof. And through the conversation, Cassius tries to convince Brutus why Caesar is not worthy of being a king. So now let's move towards the line by line translation. So in this scene, Caesar first starts by calling Calpurnia. Casca says, "Peace ho." Caesar speaks, means be quiet. Caesar speaks. Again, Caesar calls Calpurnia, and Calpurnia comes and says, "Here, my lord." So Caesar says, "Stand you directly in Antonius' way, where he doth run his course." Antonius? Okay. So Caesar tells Calpurnia that you have to stand in the way of Antony, as Mark Antony, as he runs the race. So Antony comes and says, "Caesar, my lord." Caesar says, "Forget not in your speed, Antonius, to touch Calpurnia, for our elders say the barren, touched in this holy chase, shake off their sterile curse." Okay. So Caesar says, when you're running in your fast pace, don't forget to touch Calpurnia, because there is a superstitious belief that say that if the person running in a race touches a woman who has not conceived a child, then the curse is removed. The curse of infertility will be lifted and she will be able to conceive a child. So here we come to know that Caesar is superstitious. Okay, so barren means a woman who cannot conceive. Okay. So Antony says, "I shall remember." When Caesar says do this, it is performed. So if Caesar says do something, then it is definitely done. Caesar says, "Set on and leave no ceremony out." So he says, continue and make sure that all the ceremonies are performed. A soothsayer says, "Caesar." So Caesar says, "Ha, who calls?" So who's calling me? Casca says, "Bid every noise be still, peace yet again." So he says, "Quiet everyone, quiet." Caesar, "Who is it in the press that calls on me?" So who is among the crowd that is calling me? So here press means crowd. "I hear a tongue shriller than all the music. Cry Caesar, speak." Caesar is turned to hear. So he's saying, Caesar saying, "I hear a voice that is louder than all the music here." Who is crying? Caesar. So speak. Caesar is listening. The soothsayer says, "Beware the Ides of March." So here Ides of March means the 15th of March. So this date, the Ides of March, is a very important day because this is the day that Caesar was assassinated or killed. So Caesar says, "What man is that? Who is that?" So Brutus says, "A soothsayer bids you beware the Ides of March." A soothsayer is telling you to be aware of the Ides of March. So he's having a prophecy, or he's making a forecast, a prediction, a warning of the Ides of March. Caesar says, "Set him before me, let me see his face. Tell him to come in front of me, let me see his face." So Cassius says, fellow, come from the throng. Throng means crowd. The soothsayer comes forward. Look upon Caesar. Caesar says, what sayest thou to me now? Speak once again. What have you told me? Tell me once again. Soothsayer says, beware the Ides of March. Caesar says, he is a dreamer. Let us leave him pass. Okay. So here, Caesar is dismissing what the soothsayer has said. So here he is showing not to be superstitious because maybe he feels powerful already and he feels he is invincible. That means he cannot be hurt. Okay, so everyone exits except for Brutus and Cassius. So Cassius asks Brutus, will you go see the order of the course? Are you going to watch the race? So Brutus says, not me. So Cassius says, I pray you do. Please, please come. So Brutus says, I am not gamesome, means I am not playful or sportive. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is Antony. So he's saying, I'm not as competitive or as sportive as Mark Antony is. Let me not hinder Cassius your desires. I will leave you. So he's saying, let me not come in your way and your wishes to go see the race. I will leave you to go see. So I'm writing down the meaning of certain words so that you can take down in your book as well. Cassius says, Brutus, I do observe you now of late. I have been observing you as of late. I have not from your eyes that gentleness and show of love as I was wont to have. So Cassius is saying that I no longer see the gentleness that was there in your eyes and the love that you had. I no longer see it that I used to see. You bear too stubborn and too strange a hand over your friend that loves you. Now you have become too stubborn and you seem so distant. Too strange a hand means you seem unfriendly or seem very distant over a friend that loves you so much. Brutus says, be not deceived if I have veiled my look. So do not be mistaken if I have concealed my look. Veiled means concealed. I turn the trouble of my countenance merely upon myself. So, I turn the trouble of my emotions onto myself. That is, I do not share it with anyone. I have kept it inside me. Vexed I am of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself. Okay. So what Brutus is saying here is, lately I have been overwhelmed with private thoughts, that I've kept only to myself, and conflicting emotions which may have affected my behavior. Which gave some soil perhaps to my behavior means which might have affected my behavior. Let not therefore my good friend be grieved. So please do not be sad. Among which number Cassius you be you one. So he's saying among my friends you are number one. So if I was a little fast, I have written it down. You can pause the video and take it down. Nor construe any further my neglect than that poor Brutus with himself at war forgets to show of love to other men. Okay, that means please understand that I am not neglecting you. So further, don't think that it is a neglection from my part, but poor Brutus is at war with himself. That is, his mind is turbulent. And that is why he forgets to show love outside. Then Cassius says, then Brutus, I have much mistook your passions, Means sorry, Brutus, I have mistaken your emotions or feelings. By means whereof this breast of mine hath buried thoughts of great value, worthy cogitations. So Cassius is saying, sorry that I have mistook your emotions, and because of that, I had buried a lot of important thoughts inside me. The thoughts of great value and worthy considerations. So I had kept it away from you because I felt you were distant. Tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face? So Brutus says, no, Cassius, for the eye sees not itself, but by reflection by some other things. No, Cassius, I cannot see myself except when it is a reflection on another surface. Cassius says, it's just and it is very much lamented, Brutus. So lamenting means expressing sorrow or regret that I'm very sorry, Brutus, that you have no such mirror as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye. There is no one, feel very sorry, Brutus, that you have no such mirror to reflect upon your hidden worthiness, or there is no one to show you your hidden worthiness, that you might see your shadow. I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke. Okay, so here Cassius is saying, I have heard many respected Romans except for Caesar saying that. So here the Cassius is using irony here. Irony, he's calling Caesar immortal, where he is actually planning to kill Caesar. So that is irony. So many respected Romans are speaking highly of you, Brutus, and they are groaning. Groaning means crying, complaining underneath their age, the weight of their age, saying that I wish Brutus had his eyes. I wish Brutus could see better what the current state of affairs are. So if you see here, Cassius is starting to flatter Brutus and trying to compliment his ego, saying that Brutus, you are highly respected and thought about by the respected people of Romans. Brutus says, into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me? So, into what dangers are you leading me into, Cassius? And you're telling me to look inside me, and I exactly don't know what I am looking for. So Cassius says, therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of yourself which you yet not, that you yet know not of. So he's saying, okay, Brutus, since you don't know yourself better, let me be your glass and I will show you what you are. And be not jealous on me, gentle Brutus. So here jealous actually is saying do not be suspicious of me, gentle Brutus. Where I a common laughter. See, if I was a common flatterer where I will just saying things just to flatter you, or did use to stale with ordinary oaths my love. Or saying, I do not cheapen my love with ordinary oath. I do not give any ordinary oath. To every new protester, if you know, to every um, protester means every newcomer. If you know, then I do fawn on men and hug them hard and after scandal them. So if you think that I show physical gesture on men and hug them, and then afterwards I talk behind their back and defame them. Okay, so I've written the words here, the meanings. So he's saying that if you think I'm a flatterer, if you think that I swear my love with just an ordinary oath, or if I go show physical gesture to every newcomer and hug them, and then afterwards, if I say a false statement or talk bad behind them, that I profess myself in banqueting to all the rout, then hold me dangerous. Okay, so if I proclaim my friendship to everyone when I'm celebrating, to all the people in the crowd, then consider me dangerous. But I am not like that. So just then they hear the trumpet playing and a large shout. So Brutus is saying, what means this shouting? Do I fear the people choose Caesar for the king? So what is the meaning of this shouting? Oh, I fear that people have chosen Caesar to be their king. So Cassius says, do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so? Oh, so you fear Caesar being the king. That means you don't want him to be the king. Brutus says, I would not Cassius, yet I love him well. No, I do not want him to be the king, but I love him a lot. I adore him a lot. Then he says, but wherefore do you hold me here so long? What is it that you would impart to me? Why are you holding me here for so long? What do you want to tell me or impart to me? If it be aught towards the general good, so if it is about the general good of Rome, then set honor in one eye and death in the other. So he's saying, then you should, if you hold honor on one side of the scale and death on the other, I will look at it indifferently. For let the gods so speed me as I love the name of honor more than I fear death. So he's saying that I will always choose honor and I will not fear death. So I will only be doing something that is honorable and I will never fear death. So this is an important part where Brutus is saying, no, I set honor in one eye and death on the other, and I will look both indifferently. So this is an important part. And I also forgot to mention this where Cassius is saying, let me be your reflection or your mirror. So this is also a very important part. This has come in the exam a lot of times. So study this also carefully. Again, we have come to yet another very important part of this scene. So Cassius is saying, I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus. So I know that that virtue exists in you, Brutus, that you are an honorable man. As well as I do know your outward favor, and I also know about your appearance. Well, honor is the subject of my story. So since you give importance to honor, then my subject is also going to be about honor. I cannot tell you what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as lief not be as live to be, in awe of such a thing as I myself. So Cassius tells that I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but I would rather not live. I has as live not be as live to be. So I would rather not be alive in the fear of something like myself. In awe means admire someone who is just like me. That means he's saying that Caesar is not better than Cassius. He is as common as Cassius. I was born free as Caesar, and so were you. So we have been born free like Caesar. So all of us were born free. We both have fed as well. So we are just like Caesar being fed well, and we can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. And we can also endure the cold weather just like him. So he's saying Caesar isn't great. He's just like us. For once upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores. So he's saying that one day when the Tiber was rough, so the river Tiber was rough, Caesar said to me, "Darst thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point?" So Caesar challenged Cassius and saying, "Jump into this angry river and swim to this point." Upon the word, accounted as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So he was saying, just as the word was said, he he was in his armor, just like how he was dressed. He plunged into the water and bade him follow and said, "Follow me." So indeed he did, and he also followed, just like how Caesar had said, to that point we are going to race. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it. So the torrential river, it roared, and we did beat back it. So we fought the river with lusty sinews. So sinew means muscle. So with strong muscles, throwing it aside. So we fought the river and stemming it with hearts of controversy. So with determination and rivalry for each other, we kept going forward. But here we could arrive the point proposed. So before we reached the point to where Caesar had proposed, Caesar cried, "Help me, Cassius, or I sink." So he cried out, "Help me, or else I will sink." I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder, the old Anchises bear. So if you know the story in Greek mythology, Aeneas, okay, he carried on his shoulder his elderly blind father Anchises from the fire of Troy. So he's saying, just like how Aeneas carried his old father on his shoulder from the flames of Troy, I carried tired Caesar, from the waves of Tiber. And this man is now become a god, and Cassius is a wretched creature. So I saved Caesar from dying, and now he has become a great person, and I am just a very normal wretched creature and must bend his body. So I should bend and bow to him. If Caesar carelessly but nods on him, so Caesar will just carelessly nod and go forward. So here Cassius is trying to put a point that he is stronger than Caesar and Caesar is just a normal person. Now Cassius is talking about another instance. He had a fever when he was in Spain, and when the fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. So he had high fever when he was in Spain, and he was shaking, trembling. It's true, this God did shake. So he's saying this people now who consider him to be God, he was also trembling. His covered lips did from their color fly. So they are saying he had become like a coward, so scared, and his lips had lost its color, so it had become pale. And that same eye whose bend dust all the world. Okay, so it's the same eyes whose gaze now terrifies the world did lose his luster, so lost its shine. I did hear him groan, so I did hear him cry with pain. Ay, and that tongue of his that bade the Romans. So the tongue of his that told the Romans, mark him and write his speeches in the book. So the same tongue who told the Romans to mark whatever he says, to pay attention to whatever he says, and write his speeches in the books and record them. Alas, it cried, give me some drink, Titinus. So that same tongue that said, mark my powerful speeches in books, that same tongue was begging for some drink. As a sick girl, Okay, so he's comparing Caesar to a sick girl here. You gods, it doth amaze me. So, oh God, it amazes me, a man of such a feeble temper, a man of such weak character, should get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. Okay, so he's saying that a man of such weak constitution, why should he get advantage of the entire world and carry the prize of victory alone? So I hope so much is clear. Let's go forward. So Brutus says, another general shout. So there was again trumpet blowing and shouting. I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar. So I definitely believe that these applauses, the claps, is some new honor that has been bestowed upon Caesar. So again, we are coming to a very important point of what Cassius is saying. Why, man, he dost bestride the narrow world like a colossus and we petty men. So if you Google colossus of Rhodes, so you can see this image of a huge statue of Apollo at the harbor of Rhodes. Okay, so it is a huge statue. So Cassius is comparing Caesar like Colossus. Why does Caesar stand over the narrow world like Colossus and we small petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves? So he's saying Caesar standing mighty and tall, and Brutus and Cassius are small, insignificant men, and they are standing under his leg and peeping about to find themselves their graves. Men at some time are masters of their fate. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. So, if you remember the movie The Fault in Our Stars, the name is actually taken from here. Okay. So, here Cassius is saying that we are actually responsible for our own fate. So the fault is not in our stars, but it is actually in ourselves because we are underlings. We are acting like that. So he's saying we are to be blamed to be inferior and we have no one else to blame. We can't blame fate or our stars. Okay, so I hope so much was clear. So the remaining part will be done in part 2. So study well and take care of yourselves. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening. All the very best.